Just a little bit about this. This is a place to help people with their overall health. We can share insights as we grow together, use our gifts and our talents to make a difference in this world, or just to be around more positive people. And Liz, Adrian, and I truly feel that we're creating a movement that can impact many lives. And each week we would love it if you would invite others to share in this powerful health group with us. A little bit about me. I've been helping people restore and optimize their health for over 30 years. My degrees are in nutrition and dietetics, exercise physiology, and cardiac rehabilitation. I've had the privilege of working with some of the top medical minds in the world who believe as I believe, and that's that the body has the ability to heal itself when given the proper nutrients and tools. And my passion is definitely servant-driven, and I love helping people and being able to share what I've learned over the years and to help people transform, or just for people that want to join us in this health mission. This truly feeds my soul. So now I would like to introduce you to my friend and health and business partner, Adrian Gerard.
Thanks, Deb. That was an awesome, it's a tough act to follow. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Adrian Gerard, and I'm in Milford, Connecticut. I'm a registered nurse. We got some feedback, yeah. I'm a registered nurse with a master's in holistic nutrition and a health coach. And my passion for over 30 years is to help people get healthy as naturally as possible. And I'm pleased to have everybody here tonight.
Yeah.
Now I turn you over to Liz.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. We're so delighted that you're here, and it's my pleasure to be surrounded by, first of all of you, but also with my business partners and friends, both Adrian and Deb. We are thoroughly enjoying doing this. And a little bit about me, I was a professional horse trainer for 35 years, and 17 years ago, I morphed into a personal chef and built my chef business around healthy home cooking. And now being more and more health focused as I've gotten older, this has just been a real blessing for me to be surrounded by these two women as I continue to grow in my health journey, and then being able to share it with people I love and the rest of the world. So it's really been very exciting. So now, without further ado, I am just so delighted to introduce you to our guest speaker tonight. I was introduced to this young lady actually through an email invite through a gal named Angel Hicks, who is, she leads the Evolve Women's networking group that I'm the lead for, the Indianapolis group. And she said, Liz, you've got to get connected with Kylene. I think that you two would really have a lot to talk about and visit. So Kylene and I had a wonderful visit. I went to her website. She has quite a story, and I think that you will get a lot of value of what she is going to share with us tonight. So Kylene, you may please take over.
Thank you so much, everybody, for having me on. It's just an absolute pleasure anytime I get invited to speak on something I'm passionate about. So I will go into a little bit more about who I am in a little bit, but my passion is really gut health, and so that's what I'm going to focus on sharing a little bit with you today. So we're going to talk about what is gut health. I don't know, Liz, are you sharing the slides?
Yes, when you want to, yeah, I can go ahead now and I can share, let me share the screen.
Okay.
And,
I'm wondering on my phone if I'll be able to see it, so.
Okay. Okay, so it's probably going to come up there. You should maybe be able to, well, it'll be interesting to see. I'm on your first slide. Can everybody see that yet?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Just now.
Okay.
Yeah, so right there we're going to talk about what is gut health, how does it impact you, who the heck am I, and why is it such a big deal to me, and what some results look like. So you can go to the next slide.
Okay.
So we're going to talk first of what is gut health. So I talk about this all day, with my clients.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, third second slide there.
Sorry, I think I clicked. Okay.
That's okay. It's easy to do.
Okay.
So when I talk about gut health, primarily I'm talking about the integrity of the gut lining, epithelial cell lining, and the balance of the microbiome for the good and bad or opportunistic and pathogenic gut bugs. So I can't see all of you, but raise your hand if you've heard of leaky gut before. It's a hot topic term that most of you have heard, right? So that's a little bit about what I'm talking about, but I like to define it because we all have a little bit of a different background. And so, like I said, when I talk about it, I'm primarily talking about the balance of your microbiome and the integrity of the actual gut lining. The reason this is so important is because the gut lining really plays a critical role in our health and well-being. It acts as a physical barrier protecting the inside of our bodies from the outside world. So we often think that our intestines are the inside of our bodies, but really it's a tube that protects the actual inside from the external world, from toxins and chemicals, undigested food particles, and things that we don't want to get into our blood. So the epithelial cell layer is naturally semi-permeable, meaning that it selectively lets some things in and keeps other things out. So what we want to avoid is overburdening the system. So when everything is working as it should, your gut replaces itself every 3 to 10 days. So as long as we're staying healthy, our gut lining turns over fairly quickly. So they're fast dividing cells. And so if you're really, really healthy and there's not a lot of damage that is occurring, you essentially have a new lining every week or so, which is pretty cool. In between the cells, you see this in the picture there, there's what's called tight junctions. These are proteins that can open or close as needed. So I like to think of it as those bridges when ships need to go under, they open up, the ship goes, and then it closes again. We really only want to open when they're supposed to. Unfortunately, many things we eat or do can cause these tight junctions to open up when we don't want them to, which can cause excess permeability. And that's where you're really hearing about that term leaky gut. So right underneath this lining of the cells lies a large percent of our immune system. So when the physical barrier fails, our immune system is activated and is able to identify and capture toxins. So it's like that second layer of defense still able to protect us there. But when this happens too frequently over time, this can cause chronic inflammation. And we know that most diseases have chronic inflammation as a precursor, sort of like an underlying, any disease really that you look at and you're trying to reverse engineer it, you're going to see chronic inflammation is present. So when we reverse engineer most disease, we go, okay, let's talk about heart disease or diabetes or cancer. Those individuals are going to have chronic inflammation. And when we say, well, where did that chronic inflammation come from? Because you always want to ask why until you get to the root cause. And so when we see chronic inflammation, most of the time it can start in the gut, or much of the time it can start in the gut. And so the gut is really just this amazing place to start when we're on health. The tops of those cells that you're looking at there have those little fingers. Those are called villi. Those are really important because they push things through the intestines, so they help with motility, but they also absorb the nutrients that we want to absorb. This is really, really important. When the villi are damaged, this not only causes inflammation, but also nutrient malabsorption. So even if you're eating all the right foods and lots of nutrient-dense foods, you might not be getting all the benefits if those villi are damaged. And this is an example of what happens in celiac disease. So the villi are basically flattened out, blunted. So if you're thinking of it as grass and a lawnmower went through. So that's why you see pre-diagnosis with celiacs either gain or lose significant amounts of weight. That's because it's due to inflammation and a severe lack of nutrient absorption because those villi are damaged there. So we have the villi and the cells themselves that act as physical barriers. We have the immune system cells that back things up when things fall through the cracks, so to speak. And we also have the bacteria or the microbiome. The microbiome is like all the good and bad bugs that live in our guts. And most people, are aware that taking a probiotic can have potential benefits, but they don't always know why. So opportunistic bacteria are bacteria that take the opportunity to grow once beneficial or good bacteria have been suppressed. So really the purpose of the good bacteria, or one of their purposes, is to keep the bad bacteria in check. And so when we have this imbalance, this is when we start to see undesired side effects like bloating, gas, diarrhea, brain fog, acne, etc. So we know that antibiotics obviously are life-saving in the right situations, but when they're used too frequently, they can participate in lowering beneficial bacteria. And then that's like the prime opportunity then for the opportunistic bacteria to grow. There's other situations like food poisoning, stress, lots of different things can impact that as well. So while it's not always enough nutrition plays a major role in balancing these bacteria. And this is for the reason that our microbiome actually eats what we eat, and then they also poop. So just they intake and they excrete. So the good bacteria, the beneficial, healthy bacteria, they actually crave and need and require healthy foods that are full of fiber, things like fruit, veggies, nuts, seeds, etc. And then they help us with their metabolites, with their poop. They help us with our weight, brain health, immune system, etc. The bad pathogenic opportunistic bacteria and pathogens, they typically crave things like sugar, and they usually poop metabolites that are inflammatory compounds that then cause issues that we don't want. They are really associated, like yeast, for example, is really associated with major sugar cravings. So let's talk, we can switch to the next slide, and we're going to talk about what a big impact a healthy or gut can actually have on our body. Are the arrows popping up there?
Yes, and this says that it's slide 3. Should I go one more?
Yeah, do you see all the words around? I'm only seeing the picture of the
I'm just seeing the picture too.
Okay.
It's cute.
Go ahead and click it again. There should be, maybe there, see if there's something that slides in.
Here we go. Now this says brain health. Okay.
Yeah, do that all the way around. Sorry about that. I didn't
So
mean
go
to do
ahead and
that.
just keep clicking until they go all the way around.
Clicking.
Okay.
Keep
Yep.
talking. The reason I really love to focus on the gut so much is because almost anything you're struggling with can be supported when we heal the gut. So again, this is making sure that the gut lining itself, those cells are healthy, lowering inflammation and balancing the microbiome. This picture here is certainly not a complete list by any means, but these are a few of the systems in your body that are directly impacted by gut health. So we'll start at the top there with hormone health. While there are many times where hormones need direct support, often hormone imbalances can be a result of inflammation in the body. And this is something that can be addressed and supported when we focus on gut health and nutrition. Basically, with hormones, when your body has bigger fish to fry, it doesn't think that it's in a safe place to have a baby, then your fertility ability basically gets put on the back burner. It's not important. If it thinks that there's something to focus on, fertility is not the main priority, and so your hormones can get out of balance. But when nutrient status is good, stress is down, inflammation is low, things work well in that area. Your immune system, I mentioned a second ago that much of your immune system is located in the gut, about 70+% actually. So again, when we damage this gut lining, by drinking too much alcohol or by being too stressed, eating food sensitivities on a regular basis, that nature, our immune system gets triggered regularly and can become either compromised or overactive. So in fact, leaky gut is one of a few things that are prerequisites that are required for autoimmune disease to develop. So energy and sleep is another one that is a big factor here and highly correlated with gut health. So a lot of times we don't associate non-abdominal symptoms with gut health, but our energy production and sleep quality can be greatly impacted by gut health. In fact, your melatonin, which is what triggers your brain that it's sleepy time, is mainly regulated in the gut. And you can actually see on testing as you heal the gut and as your gut health improves, melatonin levels rise. And of course, when you get great sleep, you're going to have energy as well. And the cortisol hormone, which is often thought of as sort of your energy hormone, that's impacted by inflammation and gut health as well. So it's all sort of tied together: energy, sleep, hormones, gut. So also, when your body, when your body isn't having to put out a lot of fires, it has more energy in the tank to kind of give you throughout the day. Nutrient status, I mentioned a minute ago how the villi and how the cells in your gut actually impact this directly. We need to have those cells be really healthy in order to absorb the nutrients that we're being so good at intaking and eating a healthy diet. Digestion, now this is typically where we're really familiar with how gut health can impact your body. Everything from acid reflux, diarrhea, bloating, constipation. These are things that can be associated or impacted by parasites, fungi, yeast, bacteria overgrowths, or imbalances in the gut. And then finally, brain health. This is one of my favorites, actually. Everything from neurological diseases, brain fog, and mood disorders like anxiety or depression can be supported by having that. One of the biggest motivators for me, and I'm sure all of you, which is why you're on this call, is really to live until I die instead of dying for the last 30 years of my life. And I want to be mentally present for every single day of that. And so I do everything that I can on a daily basis to have a healthy brain. And for me, that really means primarily focusing on keeping my gut healthy. Liz, you can go ahead and switch to the next slide. So how can this really impact your day-to-day life? Well, I see this a lot with my clients. If our body isn't functioning optimally, then we aren't either. I've seen poor gut health impact relationships, parenting, self-confidence, and the ability to function well or hold a job. So many of my clients have had to take time off work and live their lives around the toilet, or feel fear of planning social situations because they don't know if they will have the energy to go do them, or if they will need to run to the restroom, or if they'll suddenly experience an onset of nausea or abdominal pain. So I had one mother, for example, who spent hours in the bathroom in the morning instead of, devotions or making breakfast or spending time with her children. And once we were able to lab testing and personalize her lifestyle, I was checking in with her and I said, hey, how's that going? And she went from 1 to 2 hours in the morning to about 5 minutes. And so, this is a tremendous impact on your day-to-day life. What can you do with 2 hours? Another client was a young lady who was gaining weight, losing confidence, and experiencing pretty much daily abdominal pains. She would have to call off or even leave work sometimes because she felt so poorly. But within a few months of working together, really identifying some of the stressors in her life and working on her gut, she was losing weight, feeling happy, she told me she joined a competition at work, and then she started to seek out social events. So it was just night and day from where she had been, which was just really, really exciting to see. Go to the next slide.
Okay.
So I'll do a quick little introduction. My name, again, is Kylene Terhune. So the reason I'm so passionate about what I do, I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. I have advanced courses in hormones and blood chemistry. I'm a certified autoimmune protocol coach. And last year, I navigated cancer with an integrative approach. Of course, my main priority throughout that time, besides surviving, was protecting my gut along the way. And I wanted to avoid damaging side effects from the treatment that I chose to get. I'm currently going back to school for a graduate certificate in nutrition oncology that will roll into a master's in functional and integrative medicine. And I just released a book called Healthy Through Hodgkin's. So as you can see, I'm a passionate learner. Liz asked me to go a little bit more into my cancer story. So I'm just going to take a second to share that really briefly, as briefly as I can. That could be the whole. But if you want to read the whole thing, you can read my book. But basically, in February of 2019, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's about 1% of cancers, so leave it to me to be a special will. And I was really surprised. I had spent the past 2 years prior to that being extremely dedicated. I absolutely practice what I preach, and so I'm very much a 100% jump into the deep end when it comes to making decisions. And so I was very all into my health from the moment I started learning and working as a health coach. And so it was a little bit of a surprise. I found a lump in my neck. I started the process. And one of the things that really encouraged me was recognizing that disease starts anywhere from chronic disease and cancer and things like that start anywhere from 7 to 15 years prior to being able to be diagnosed. So if I had thought about, it happening in my body 2 years prior to diagnosis, that did not make sense to me with everything that I had done, because I had actually doing what I do, running the labs on myself and living the life that I encourage my clients to live. I had improved in many, many areas. I had worked on my hormones. I had identified a lot of issues in my gut and worked on healing my gut. My sleep had improved, my energy had improved, so many things in my life had improved. How in the world could I have cancer? Well, when I looked back at the timeline, it made so much sense. 7, 10, 15 years prior, I was so incredibly unhealthy. I had mega stressors in my life, mental, emotional, physical, many rounds of antibiotics. Actually, I had grown up for 18 years living fairly close, within a few miles, to a nuclear power plant that had a couple leaks in its history. So you name it, as something that could be a potential environmental toxin, associated with carcinogenesis and cancer development. I'd probably been exposed to it. And so, and not to mention my diet had been horrible and all sorts of things like that. So ultimately, at the point that I discovered it, it was when God needed me to discover it and not a moment sooner. And I absolutely recognized that the timing was perfect. I knew it hadn't happened overnight, so I decided to take a look in my phone because I was like, this lump did not just like appear. So I was scrolling, thank goodness for iPhones, because you can like look back at dates. It was really fascinating. And so I scrolled back and I was like, there's gotta be a picture. There's gotta be a picture. And I found several. The earliest one that I could find was 2 years prior to diagnosis. And God just hadn't let me see it until the point that I had become a health coach. I had built my body up to be very strong. And I had networked with enough people that I knew who to ask questions to. And so there was 100% purpose through this entire process. And so I reached out and to one of my communities and I said, hey, is there something, along the lines of an integrative oncologist, a functional oncologist? I didn't know. And they said, sure enough, yes, there is. And they were telling me who to go to. I got on a phone call with a woman and talked with her and decided ultimately to go with her. I did a lot of research. I got diagnosed in February. I didn't start treatment until May. I had to decide, doing what I do, did I want to do conventional medicine? Did I want to try something alternative? What did I want to do? So ultimately what I decided based on the research and what worked for me was to do an integrative approach. And I'm kind of an advocate for that, I guess you would say now. So in my particular cancer, chemotherapy and conventional medicine has a very, very high efficacy rate. So very high survival rate going through conventional. However, it is extremely toxic, damaging. You can end up with a lot of side effects. You can end up with organ toxicity and a lot of things that you have to live with the rest of your life. It saved you from cancer, but it's going to kind of leave you affected. And so I did want to knock it out, obviously, and I did want that efficacy, but I also wanted to protect my body, and that's where the integrative approach really stepped up for me. And so I hired my integrative oncologist. My local oncologist knew that I was working, so they knew we were working together. And what integrative allowed me to do was really use chemotherapy in addition to lifestyle, nutrition, and supplementation. That was the supplementation that she gave me was very, very, very targeted to protect my organs against the chemo while still allowing it to be effective against the cancer. So it was very specific for me. And it worked. It really helped me navigate the treatment, but then it also helped me recover. And I'm not living with the burden of side effects that I see a lot of cancer patients come through. So that's an absolute blessing. And I'm so glad that I was able to do that. And that's one of the reasons I wrote my book, is that I really, really, really wanted to be able to encourage other women. In fact, I was really against associating myself with cancer or being a cancer survivor. I basically wanted to approach it as, a trauma or something I had to deal with in my life, and then let it go and just disconnect. I didn't want to be identified by it. After I got into remission. But after talking to some people, they were like, Kylene, you really, this is part of your story. You need to share it. And when I started talking about it, I realized that everything that I talk about with my clients, I love to talk about gut health and hormones, et cetera, and a healthy lifestyle and nutrition. These are all things that cancer patients need times 10. Our gut is trashed by chemotherapy. And so there are absolutely things that can be done to support your gut during treatment. Your hormones get really disrupted and can potentially throw you into menopause early. And so there's a lot of things that are really important that I currently talk about with my clients that I can, help other people with during recovery. So that's kind of where that came from. And I'm really excited to have it out there as an encouraging resource. One of the other is because when I got diagnosed, I looked on Facebook and there are a lot of support groups. However, it's really scary, and I didn't want that in my feed because there's a lot of side effects and fear and a lot of things like that. And I just wanted to maintain a positive mentality. I'm sorry, my phone's dying. I got to plug it in, so I'm still talking. I wanted to maintain a positive mentality, and I knew how important it was able to focus on positive things. And so when I created Healthy Through Hodgkin's, I have a Facebook group and an Instagram page that's very, very focused on positivity, encouragement, hope, you know, a lot of information on, you know, the food and resources and things like that. But I really wanted it to just be a positive place. So that's another reason why.
Wonderful.
Liz, you go ahead and pop onto the last
Okay.
page. We're almost done here.
Okay.
So that's a little bit about me. I'm just going to share just a real quick what some of the results are that you can see when you are working on your gut health. And so this is just a really tiny snapshot of one of my favorite tests. I run a stool test on pretty much every single client. I can't not run this test. It's so informative. And so, you know, I did mention earlier that nutrition plays a major role in our health because it feeds our gut bugs and they impact everything else. However, when imbalances get out of control, sometimes we need to step in with more targeted therapies and personalized protocols and herbal supplements and things of that nature to really knock it out. And at that point, diet and lifestyle can really come in to what I call, you know, maintenance mode to keep everything balanced moving forward. So this particular picture is just an example of how powerful natural therapies can be. C. diff is a virulent bacteria that's often caught in hospital settings. And in fact, I did get it after being in the hospital with cancer treatments. And so I had to deal with that myself as well, knocking that out afterwards. And it can be difficult to eradicate, and it often is antibiotic resistant. So this, in addition to other difficult pathogens like H. pylori and Candida, these are all things that can be addressed through targeted lifestyle, nutrition, and supplemental protocols. So you can see there, it's about 6 months apart. We had a positive C. diff-style toxin A, and the next test showed that it had been completely eliminated. So I really do believe that, you know, God has given us so many tools in nature, including antioxidants, powerful herbs, sunshine, and the earth itself, which really is so important for us to stay connected to in order to feel balanced and really healthy and heal. So I always like to leave people with action items anytime I'm in a teaching group and things that people can implement right away. So today I just wanted to leave you with 5 really quick things that you can do to begin working on your gut health. So the first thing that you can do is to eat probiotic rich foods. So a lot of times we think about taking probiotics, but there are benefits to that, but there's a lot of benefit to eating probiotic foods because they get variety, but also guaranteed to get through your body, which a lot of probiotics off the shelf sometimes do not. So they can be really, really beneficial for getting different strains in there. Eating prebiotics, so I mentioned fiber earlier and how important it is to get that in there. That's because we can take all the probiotics that we want. If we are not feeding the good bacteria, they're just going to die off. So we need to sustain them with the food that we eat. The third thing is prioritizing your sleep. So this is actually really, really important, and it can really impact our health in tremendous ways. And so there are a lot of I have my blue light blockers on here. If that's what you can do to optimize your sleep. You can block the blue light. Blue light comes from the sun, and so it tells our brain that it's daylight out. And so in the evening, it's something like for every half hour that you're exposed to blue light from our devices, your melatonin is suppressed by about an hour. So if you really want melatonin to spike in the evening to trigger your brain that it's time to go to bed and that it's time to sleep, then we need to be blocking the blue light or, you know, avoiding our devices. Cooling your home at night between 63 to 68 degrees is also really, really helpful. Again, it's just kind of mimicking Earth's natural circadian rhythm. It gets cooler at night. You don't have to be cold. You can totally bundle up, but the air around you needs to be cool. And really, like, that makes a huge difference. Once I started doing that, the temperature gets too high now. It's like I can't sleep. Purify your water. So a lot of times we can get accidental exposure to different pharmaceuticals, chemicals, even pathogens, even though they're purifying the water to some extent. It varies from city to city, but purified water can really help sort of eliminate that pathogenic load there and toxicity load. And then, of course, I had to say this because it is what I do. But when in doubt, test, don't guess. I have really, really, really seen such a tremendous impact from working with my clients and just really stop guessing about diet, stop guessing about nutrition. There's so many things out there that we have all tried and maybe seen not so magical results. And so just really getting in there and seeing like, what is it exactly that your body needs? What is it asking for? What stressors are present that need to be eliminated? And what nutrients or resources is it asking for in order to work efficiently? And so once we're there, we can jump ahead and make a lot of progress really quickly. So I hope that that was helpful and informative. I could really just go off like talking about it. I'm gonna check off now. So thank you so much.
Okay, great. So should I stop sharing the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great, Kylene. Okay, that should be going off. Okay, and we're back. Wonderful. Okay, I see a lot of people. Okay, Kylene, thank you so much. That was, and of course, I'm sitting here thinking, and I don't know, Adrian and Deb, I think that if she was with Dr. Rouse, they'd be talking nonstop.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, yeah, right. He would just, yeah, he would be hugging you. Yes. So, okay, well, this is where we like to ask questions of Kylene, bring up a that's around what we're talking about tonight, and get some conversation going. Yes, Barb.
Could you give us some probiotic rich foods that you recommend?
Yes, absolutely. So one of my favorites is sauerkraut for sure. You can make it yourself or you can buy good brands, but so it's really easy to incorporate because you can just put like a spoonful on your plate. I particularly like it with vegetables or meat, but my favorite brand is Bubby's. It's a crunchy, so it's not a really soggy sauerkraut. And then there's also, I think, a local, well, I don't think you guys are local. I'm not sure if this would be in your area, but there's another one. It's like, I think it's called Kraut. But you can try, like, if you go to Whole Foods or something like that, there should be different brands, and you can kind of find, some of them put flavors in there. Just make sure you read the ingredient label, make sure it's not like a lot of sugar or something like that. But yeah, I like Bubby's brand. It's really crunchy and delicious. Also kimchi, fermented vegetables, or maybe like a dairy-free yogurt. But with yogurts, you always have to be careful because a lot of times they're loaded with sugar. So Cocoyo is a good brand there. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There's one that we get a lot and I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, like a plant-based or like coconut yogurt, something like that, just no sugar.
Okay. Kylene, I have a quick question about your glasses. So those are glasses that block out the light from your device.
Yeah. So blue light, like I said, so it's from the sun, right? And so it tells our brain that it's daylight. And so at night, or if you're doing a lot of computer work and you get headaches from it, or you like strain a lot, blue light blockers can be super helpful. So the orange tint is really important because people will buy blue light blockers or computer glasses that are, on the so-called or whatever on Amazon, and they might have a tiny little tint, but that orange is really important because that's really what is doing the blocking. And so they're not quite as attractive, but they do the trick.
You're at home.
Yeah, and they do the trick. And my husband, he is someone, like, a lot of people will notice it fairly quickly, where he's like, oh my gosh, these things work amazing. He puts them off and he's like, good night. So I particularly, like, if you guys are self-controlled and have discipline, don't watch TV at night and you can go to bed, that's fine. Part of my, like, I work all day, and then, like, part of my nighttime routine is, like, I just want to, like, get in bed and relax and watch a show. Well, that blue light, and sometimes the show itself can kind of stimulate you.
Right.
So I just watch them. I lay down and I put my blue light blockers on and I watch my TV.
There you go. Okay, Steve for mom. Yeah. Okay, so Teresa, you had a question. Yes.
You mentioned an integrative oncologist.
Yeah.
And what exactly, like, when you do integrative, what does the integrative oncologist focus on?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So so for me particularly, so my integrative oncologist, she's in Arizona, I'm in Ohio. So we did phone calls. And so because I do what I do, our relationship might have been a little bit different. And she would tell me what to do and I would order my own supplements and stuff like that. But a lot of people, I think, would be local And so what she did primarily with me was supplementation. So for example, I went through ABBD treatment chemotherapy, which is 4 separate chemos kind of combined in a cocktail, and it can be particularly damaging to your heart and to your lungs. And so I was on specific supplements to protect my heart and my lungs. Like for example, for my heart, it was CoQ10. I was like a high dose of CoQ10. You'll usually see people recommended to take like 100 to 200 milligrams. I was on like 400 milligrams all through treatment, and then up until recently, and I think now I'm on like 200. So we were on really, really targeted supplements. And then we would get on the call and I'd be like, hey, I'm struggling with this. And we would tweak it. And so she was there in between to really tweak it. Now, I personally wanted to do vitamin C IVs. I had already connected with a clinic that was local where I was getting Myers cocktails, which are like vitamin C, B vitamins, and magnesium. And just because it was something I wanted to do, not because I was diagnosed with cancer. And so I already had become a patient there. And so when I got diagnosed, they said, hey, can I do high dose vitamin C IVs? She said, yep, do it. So I went through this clinic. I ordered, it has to be like a prescription order. I ordered vitamin C IVs, and I would go in between my chemo sessions. So I had chemo once every 2 weeks, and on my off week, I would go get high dose vitamin C. So again, that is very protective, but also helps make the chemotherapy more effective. So it's protective against toxicity, but then it helps the chemo be effective against the cancer. So there's a lot of things like that they can kind of help you walk through and kind of target your, or personalize and your supplementation regimen, and give you guidelines and help you with side effects and things like that, kind of guide you on what to do that'll be most helpful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Deb or Adrian, or anyone else have something they want to chime in?
Yeah, how do we get Kylene's email address or phone number or whatever if we have someone that might want to call or talk to her?
Right, I can give that all to you, Steve. What we can do is I'll do all that, and then Kylene too. So I will share the email addresses of our guests here, so you have that too if you wanted to.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Actually, you guys are. I was looking at the supplement line that you guys have, and I remember last week someone had mentioned that their neuropathy had gone. And I believe that was with Lonacera Lift, if I remember, which completely makes sense because it has B5 in it. So B5 be helpful with neuropathy. And actually there was a form of that my, because chemo can cause neuropathy as well as diabetes. And there was a form of B5 that I was put on kind of mid-treatment. So I thought that was interesting when she mentioned that.
Right.
Oh. I just wanted to mention a little of what Dr. Rouse has to say about Lonacera longevity in the gut. And how I found this was I have late onset Crohn's, and I was having a really hard time with it a couple of months ago. And so I started scouring the product page, and I found one little post that actually we're going to share with I think Liz already has shared it with everyone.
Right. Yeah, I've got it where I can share it with everyone.
Okay. So just to go along with Kylene's wonderful presentation, Dr. Rouse says that our product is very helpful for restoring your gut healthiness, or the integrity, like Kylene was talking about, first the inside part. And our Silifos, which is our patented milk thistle, provides a unique opportunity for the liver to produce a better quality of pancreatic juices and bile. And this helps alleviate irritation and inflammation. And the trace minerals that we have in there provide nano-sized minerals necessary for tissue repair. So to repair the gut as it's turning over. And of course, our glutathione provides anti-inflammatory power, plus it boosts the immune system. So all of this together, and this works together to help restore your gut. When I was having a really hard time, I took it twice a day, 2 capsules twice a day. After a couple of weeks, I was down to 2 a day like everyone else, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
That's just my experience.
Right.
I was looking at that So it has L-glutamine. L-glutamine is literally like food for your epithelial cells to repair themselves. I was on 30 grams of that during chemotherapy because it kills, because they're fast dividing cells. So just like the chemo, like, or the cancer cells in your hair, they kill it. And so I was on like a massive, like that's like nobody takes 30 grams a day. L-glutamine is in there, and that's a big part of that gut healing capacity right there.
Yeah. Awesome.
So we've got a little gut insurance.
Yes.
Doesn't mean lifestyles.
It has D3, and you have to have D3. Like if you were, watching everything that's happening in the world recently, and they were like, people that are getting extra affected, they have low D3. That's like with any disease, cancer. My D levels were so low when I got diagnosed. They were too low when I got diagnosed. You got to be careful with that. So yeah, getting a sufficient amount of D3 is super helpful.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. You're right.
Yeah. Awesome.
One of the things too that I've seen when people are getting tested for their vitamin D, a lot of times the doctors will just go by the norm for the area and will say, oh yeah, 30 to 50 is normal in the blood, where I just have always encouraged my clients to hit around 80, 70 to 80 is, I think, much more healthy as a normal blood level rather than, hitting the 30 to 50 range.
Yeah. Good to know, Deb. Yeah.
I was up at 90 when I was on some vitamin D at one point in time, and my doctor told me to quit taking it for 3 months. I didn't.
Yeah.
That's another thing too. I was at a doctor's a get together, and I kind of snuck in because I wasn't a doctor, and but I was listening to all these pediatricians talk, and they said that with autistic children, they're always shooting for around 100 in blood levels for vitamin D, and that it helps so much more. So what I've learned over the years is that if you're not experiencing any adverse effects from being at 90, Mary, that you're okay. Your body will tell you if you're experiencing too much in your blood.
What would your body do?
Yeah, right. What would be the side effect? Yeah, what would that be, Deb? Or Michelle? You go ahead.
Michelle?
No, you can go ahead, Deb, if you want to.
Well, a lot of times people experience nausea, constant nausea, just stomach upset, even vomiting. Vomiting is a common side effect of too much vitamin D in the blood, but it's usually a stomach related thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and the one thing that I was going to say was I think you do need to be cautious not to overdo vitamin D, because if there's too much in your system, it can actually suppress your immune system. So I think that number of 90 is probably a good amount to stay near or under, because as it approaches 100, I haven't heard the studies with the kids with autism, but I have heard of other people having the reverse immune protective effect if they get over 100 with their vitamin D level.
Okay.
And it is a hormone, so we don't want to overdo a hormone, something that acts like a hormone in our body.
There's actually a Georgetown study that says your thyroid cannot get into your cells if your vitamin D is under 80. But
really?
Very few people get it up to 80. And it's not getting hung up on what dose you have to take to get to 80, because like Kylene was saying, it's not necessarily what you eat, it's what you absorb. So depending on the condition of your gut, you might need more than somebody else to get your blood to a certain level. But there is a study at Georgetown that shows that.
Oh, that's interesting. Sounds like there's a lot of conflict here.
Because none of these studies are funded by the drug companies.
Right. Yeah. What were you going to say, Kylene?
I always recommend that people monitor it with their blood work. So if you are constantly checking your levels, you can find out what supplement dose is good for you.
Yeah.
5,000 IU is too low for me, but 10,000 seems to do the trick. I also have like, if people really want to dig into it, you can do like genetic testing to see like if you have issues with vitamin D. And I apparently do have some issues. So I always encourage people to do the blood work, but then also, you know, what I call practice safe sun, because you can overdose on supplements, but you can't overdose, meaning when you're getting vitamin D from the sun, your body will stop producing it when it has enough.
Okay.
So that's probably going to happen way before you burn. So you don't ever have to burn to get that.
Right. Awesome.
I would say like 20 minutes. They recommend if you can just expose your skin for about 20 minutes before putting on sunscreen to get the vitamin D levels up. Kylene, can you touch a little bit on what you've seen with all that you've learned on children, ADD, ADHD, autism with the gut health? Because I know there's definite connection there, isn't there?
Oh, for sure. So I haven't worked with a lot of kids directly, but there is so much of a gut-brain connection. So most of our neurotransmitters are regulated in our gut, and our gut communicates to our brain about 9 times more than our brain communicates to our gut through the vagus nerve. And so whether or not somebody has something on the spectrum, you'll see dramatic improvements in cognitive behavior, focus, in mood for sure, and even like just the ability to handle stressful situations. So if you have someone on the spectrum like that, that's just all amplified. And I've heard some really tremendous testimonials about, you know, it's not necessarily cured per se with every single person that changes their lifestyle and nutrition, but there's a lot of benefits and control of the situation and better life for the children when they're focusing on healing the gut and eating healthy foods. And I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, eating healthy fats and not eating afraid fats, and then getting rid of foods and toxins that actually cause that damage to the gut lining. So one of the big triggers for most people is gluten, because it raises a protein called zonulin, and zonulin opens the tight junctions in the gut. And so that causes permeability in a situation where we don't want it. And so the more we have that permeability, the more things can get into your bloodstream, the more it's going to impact your brain. And so, you know, eliminating all sorts of toxins, hair care, skin care, etc., home toxicity. But then, of course, the food, we want to eliminate anything that increases that permeability in situations where we don't want it to. So yeah, I've heard a lot of really amazing stories about how it can support families with autism. I haven't personally seen it, but I've seen even with my son, how dramatic even just removing food sensitivities can be for him. So we identified that this past year, and it was like dark cloud lifted, different child.
Wow. Awesome. Nice.
When you were talking
Kylene, which stool test do you, oh, I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
I just was interested when you mentioned the term eat healthy fats. What do you mean by eat what and how?
Yeah, all of it. Nuts, seeds, grass-fed butter, grass-fed pasture-raised meats. I'm not afraid of saturated fat. Trans fat, I think, is typically the problem. Anything that's processed, really. I don't like to, you know, I think we complicate it. Did God make it? Eat it. Did it come in a box or a factory? Don't eat it. So if it's avocado, it's good for you. If it's a walnut, it's good for you. If it's, you know, fat from a grass-fed pasture-raised cow. Here's the thing with meat. So we have really gotten this concept that red meat is horrible for us. Well, a cow that is fed grain, which it's not born to eat, and that is raised in an unhealthy environment that's miserable its whole life, is unhealthy for you. And it actually will shift the amount of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids in the meat itself. It will be higher in omega-6s, which are inflammatory, and most Americans have an extremely high level of omega-6s versus omega-3s, and the ratio should be very close together. But when you have a pasture-raised, grass-fed, happy life, happy cow, got a lot of sunshine, ate a lot of grass, the ratio will shift to actually have more omega-3s, and it's a better, healthier source of meat for you. So if it's like a healthy animal, it's probably much more healthy for you. So I just try to go with the rule of as close to nature as possible. And so the same thing with butter. So grass-fed pasture-raised butter, well, butter from pasture-raised cows can't have fat butter, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
So that's kind of where I go. The only caveat there, and again, this is really getting into the weeds of, you know, if somebody's hitting a wall and not seeing results or not feeling good on something like this, is genetic testing. Some people can't really handle saturated fat. And so, you know, those people, for example, if they tried to do a ketogenic diet, they'd maybe gain weight or feel miserable on it because, you know, that they're not getting away from saturated fat. They're actually intaking more of that. But for most people, saturated fat in things like coconut oil or something is okay. So I always go with as natural as possible, and then trying to get variety. Don't like cook every single thing in butter. Don't cook everything in coconut oil. Don't cook everything in avocado oil. Try to get a variety, and then make sure that, you know, you're getting lots of plant foods as well. So those natural sources, and of course fish. Lots of omega-3s in fish.
Yeah. Awesome.
Great. Liz, should we go into a testimonial? Do we have any other questions for Kylene? We're running out of time.
Right. I think that we're good if we've got, we have a quick testimonial. That would be, we have time, Deb.
Okay.
That'd be great. Yep.
It would be great.
Wonderful. Well, I want to introduce Mary. She's on with us today, and she recently started Longevity and Lift, and I just wanted her to share what she's seen so far, and you can let us know how long you've been on it, Mary. So go ahead, hon.
I just started it last Tuesday. And I don't know any of my issues. My legs keep swelling and they're, you know, retaining water or whatever. No doctor can give me any answers to all this. I had breast cancer, and it sent me straight into menopause. And of course that messed me up. I gained weight like there was no tomorrow, yada, yada. And I also do have arthritis in my knees and that. Anyway, Wednesday, it rained here. And of course, on rainy days, I hurt. I really hurt. And I text Deb and I said, I walked up and down my stairs with absolutely no problem. It was just remarkable. And even this past Saturday, I only took one, and because I take one at 6:30 in the morning and one at noon, and I didn't take my noon one, and I could feel the difference. My legs hurt. So it's remarkable for me.
So Mary, was that the lift that you take 1 and 1?
No, the longevity. I was on the lift, but I wasn't sleeping, or I couldn't fall asleep. And Deb said, no, take them both.
Okay, so it was a longevity. You take 1 in the morning and then 1 at noon. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And hasn't it helped with your swelling in your legs?
Yes, my legs are not near as swelled.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great. Absolutely wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, you guys, this has been another great Knowledge is Power hour. It's so funny. I was sitting here thinking, this is sort of like going to night school. Someone who didn't go to college, I sort of feel, do I get credit for this class? I just love it. I just love it. Right. So anyway, Kylene, we can't thank you enough. This has been
Thank you.
Information, and I know that you and I will be keeping in touch, and I'll make sure that our guests have your contact information in case they want to reach out to you. And
that'd be really important.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was very, very helpful.
Appreciate it. And I really, really enjoy talking with all of you. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Great. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for being here, all of our guests. And
Thank you, Kylene.
Codexis family, this has been wonderful.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.